I'm exploring several simple introductory war games these days because I'm looking for games to include in a class that I'm teaching in the second half of the semester. It is a class about representations of war in fiction, so literature, movies, and also war games, I hope. Problem is that, of course, many students will not be war gamers. Actually, probably most students will not even be gamers. They may have never moved past Monopoly, for all I know. So I need to find very simple games that I can introduce easily, that non-gamers can play, possibly enjoy, and that are playable in a short amount of time. One such game, one game that I explored hoping that it would fit that bill, is Trenches of Valor, published by Victory Point Games. This is a game set in World War One. It is a quick and brutal game about the trench warfare. In each scenario, one of the two sides will enter trenches defended by the opponent, and violent, brutal stuff will happen there, as you very well should expect given the topic. The game is indeed very simple, like 4 pages of rules or less, and those rules they have more explanation that you would find in a regular rule book for war games, by which I mean they explain some concepts that any war gamer would know, probably even just any gamer. So really the rules have been designed even for somebody who never played war games to educate him or herself about war games. From the book, you can get the real basics of war gaming. That means that there would be even less rules if we took that part out. So 4 pages of rules, less rules than that in the book, less rules that usually would take 4 pages to cover. Playtime probably around 10 minutes. Now, in the past, I played some games published by a publisher called 10-Minute War Game. I loved the idea of playing a war game in 10 minutes, but those games simply were not all that fun. In one of my videos, I remember concluding that probably war games were never meant to be played in 10 minutes. I got to the point in which I believe that you simply can't have a good war game in 10 minutes. Did Trenches of Valor change my mind? Well, I'll tell you about that in the conclusions of my video reviews, but first I want to tell you how the game works. The game is played on this small map printed on cardboard, and it represents a system of trenches. This is the main terrain feature of the map. Also here you have barbed wire, which is impassable, but in each scenario you will have instructions that will tell you where you should put the marks that indicate the areas where the barbed wire has been cut, and therefore the areas that are passable, the areas that the raider can use to enter the board. In each game, you will have a side playing the role of the raider. The raider will enter from this side through the cut wire and will try to accomplish missions on this side of the board. The other side will be the defender and will try to prevent the raider from accomplishing his mission, whatever that is. Because there are several scenarios that come with the game, they are pretty different from one another, but the main dichotomy and the victory conditions remain the same. The raider scores point for accomplishing the objective of the mission on the board, and sometimes also for leaving the board, and sometimes the raider needs to go in, accomplish a mission, and leave the board. The defender wins the game by preventing the raider from completing his mission. Now, the game is divided in turns and uses units represented by counters such as this one. You have nice art in the middle of the counter, a letter, and then define the type of unit that is, a number in the bottom right corner that indicates the movement points that unit has. And then on the left side, you have range and to hit numbers. That means that when a unit attacks, you look at the range at which it is attacking. If there is a die result there, then it means that a unit attacking at that range needs to roll that number or less in order to hit. If this unit is attacking an enemy at 3 hexes of distance, then it can only hit with a 1. This unit would hit with a 2 at this distance, 2, 3, 3. The longer the range, the harder it is to hit. There is a terrain modifier which is based on trenches. If you're attacking an enemy that is in a trench and you're not attacking through a contiguous trench, then you have a modifier of +1, so that makes it harder to hit if you're trying to hit an enemy in the trench and you're not in the same trench. However, if the die result printed on the counter is a yellow one, that's an explosive weapon, and explosive weapons do not take terrain modifiers into account. So if you're tossing a weapon in a trench, even if you're not in the trench itself, you get the same chances of hitting as if the opponent is not in that trench. And turns are very simple. I think that just by explaining how attacks work, I explained most of what the game is about. During your turn, you activate any and all of your units, and you can choose to activate your unit for one of three possible actions. The unit can be activated for movement, so you simply move the unit up to its full movement allowance. Clear terrain is 1, moving into a trench or out of a trench is 2, moving from trench hex to trench hex is 1. So you can activate a unit for movement. You can activate a unit to reveal the unit. Units may, the defender in some scenarios will start the game face down, and then it takes an action, a movement action, to simply flip it face up to reveal the unit, but that's the only action that the revealed unit can take. Also, in scenarios where units are face down, there are decoys that the defender can use to confuse the attacker, the raider, as to where the actual units of the defender are. And that is also very useful in solitaire, because you can mix in the decoys with the real units, and you as the raider do not know exactly where the opponents are. Action can be used to move, as I explained. Action can be used to attack, and then to resolve the attack you follow the procedure that I explained earlier, which is you declare that the active unit is attacking, is spending its own action, its only action to attack. You count the range, may or may not take terrain modifiers into account, roll the die, and if you roll equal to or less than the number to hit for the range that you are attacking at, then the attack is a hit, and you remove the hit unit. You remove the unit that you just hit. The other action that can be taken is to clear a dugout. There may be dugouts on the board, and sometimes cleaning the dugouts is a condition for the raider to win the game. Units of the defender may be inside the dugout or on top of a dugout. To clear a dugout, a unit of the raider needs to be in the same hex with the dugout and to use its one action to clear the dugout. So to clear one, to eliminate one, to remove from the board is an action. Well, I have to tell you, this game changed my mind. It is, in fact, possible to play a game in 10 minutes and actually play a game that is a war game. It's a very small one. It feels like the Japanese garden version of a war game, but it's right there. It feels like a war game. It is a war game. Partially, of course, because of the general concepts that you have in wargaming, move your units, attack, those basic actions clearly are at the core of wargaming in general, but also because you have enough detail to get the sense that really this is about an historical situation which is captured in clear and extremely economic way, but it is somehow captured. It does give you a sense of an historical theme here. Units behave differently, they specialize in different ways, which means that you, the player, need to assign different tasks to your units based on the different speeds at which they move, their ability to respond to what the opponents may be doing. Units that attack in different ways, so positioning is very important. You really have all the basic ideas here, so it works as a pedagogical tool to teach wargaming to somebody, but it also works as a small challenge. It's not advanced squad leader, not even the starter kit, but as you're playing it, the board does present you with challenges about, well, position, movement, attacking, maximizing the odds, responding to the opponent, bluffing in the component of the game in which you can choose to hide your units and mix them in with decoys, and the opponent, the raider, has to figure out what you may have tried to do. Timing of when revealing hidden units is important too. in a game that can be played in 10-15 minutes, I did not expect not just this level of detail, which is very economically factored in, but this level of fun, this level of enjoyment, which comes from a decent range of decisions that you can make, of ways in which you can use the terrain and the position of the units on the board to your advantage, or in any case, enough factors that you have to take into account to be able to play effectively. For a game this short, clearly there can be a couple of die rolls that become extremely crucial. If you have a string of good rolls or bad rolls, that can be devastating. But the game lasts 10 minutes, you're likely going to be able to play another game. Scenarios, if you find that scenarios lack of balance, if you play a scenario many times and you find that the side is always winning, with a game this short, that is not much of a problem. All you need to do is to play 2 games back to back and see who did better when playing the side that has an advantage. Trenches of Valor turn out to be better than expected because not only is this a game that is going straight into my class activities, I'm definitely going to have my students play this game in the class with the 2 games back-to-back option. In a single class meeting, I can teach this game, the students can play it twice, and we can then reconvene and discuss about our experience. This makes it a perfect game for classroom activities. Not only is this game going into that activity, but it's also a game that I'm happy to have in my collection for more general purposes. That is just to play over a lunch break, to play as a solitaire when I have 10-15 minutes where, I don't know, nobody's showing up to my office hours, then I can set up this game and play it as the raider with the challenge of not knowing where the units of the opponent are. I also played solitaire without decoy units, simply knowing where the defender has all the units, playing both sides to the best of my possibilities, and the game worked too. I can't say it's the most rewarding, satisfying war game that there is out there, because that would be absurd given the small scale and the not too ambitious philosophy behind the design. But in a certain way, well, I'll correct that. There is ambition here. Ambition in giving you a sense that you are indeed playing a war game with such simple rules and in a 10-15 minute span. Yeah, actually, that there's an ambitious thing. That is a challenge that I've seen other games trying to take, and they failed. Other games that tried to be 10-minute war games just were not this good. There's another one, there's Strike Force one by Victory Point Games, that also actually manages to feel like a war game and lasts more or less like the amount of time that this game does. But this one is better. This one is more fun. I simply enjoy it better. I think I play both games in my class, Strike Force 1 and this one, but this one I look forward to playing more, both in my class and in other possible situations, because this is a game that as a lunch break game, as an introduction to wargaming, as a quick solitaire game, can be a lot of uses. So I think that Trenches of Valor achieves quite a bit when you consider what a small game, what a simple game it is. Trenches of Valor by Victory Point Games. Definitely a small game, but a good small game.